Understanding the Book of Genesis. The Book of Genesis is designed to fall into two main parts. You have chapters 1 to 11, which is telling the story of God and the whole world. And then you have the second part, which is about God and Abraham's family, as chapters 12 to 50. The first part of Genesis begins with the creation story, where God creates everything. He takes a dark, watery chaos and he turns it into a beautiful garden where humans can flourish. And this is where we meet the first human characters in the Bible, Adam and Eve. They're both individual characters but also representative. Adam is the Hebrew word for humanity, and Eve is the Hebrew word for life. God creates them in His image. In other words, humanity reflects, or is meant to reflect, the creativity, the goodness, and character of the Creator out into the world that He's made. And they're supposed to reproduce and make cultures and neighborhoods and art and gardens and everything else. But He gives them a moral choice about how they are going to build this world. And this is what the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is all about. God tells them, "Don't eat of this tree or you will die." What's that all about? The core biblical explanation of sin. Up till then, God has been defining and providing what is good. God is the one with the knowledge of good and evil. But this tree represents a choice. Will the humans trust God's definition of good and evil? Or are they going to seize the opportunity to try and define good and evil for themselves? Unfortunately, Adam and Eve eat the fruit. This is the core biblical explanation for that concept of sin. That desire to call the shots yourself. It's the inward turn of the human heart to do what's good for yourself and for your tribe, even if it's at the expense of you and your tribe. The problem is humans are horrible at defining good and evil without God. So now that humanity's made this choice, things get really bad. Genesis 3 through 11 is like tracing this downward spiral of all humanity. Adam and Eve, they can't trust each other anymore. Beforehand, they were naked and felt fine about it. But now they feel shameful because all of a sudden, Adam's definition of good and evil might be different than Eve's. And so they hide from each other. There's another story of temptation of Cain being jealous of his brother Abel, and he gives in and kills him. There's another story right after Cain about a guy named Lamech. All we know about Lamech is that he accumulates wives like property, and he sings songs about how he's a more violent and vengeful person than Cain ever was, and he's proud of it.
Things get so bad with the human race that we see God decide to just wipe humanity out. We typically think of the flood story as about God being angry, but it actually begins with God's sadness and grief about the state of His world. So out of the passion to preserve the goodness of His world, He washes it clean with the flood. But there's a glimmer of hope. He chooses Noah and his whole family and saves them on this boat, and the animals too. So Noah and his family are going to reboot all of humanity. After the flood, Noah gets off the boat and plants a vineyard and gets totally plastered, and then something sketchy happens in his tent with his son. It's a tragic story. So, from here, humanity grows again, and things are as bad as before. And the last story is the famous story of the Tower of Babel. In this story, you have all of the nations uniting together to use this new technology. They have the brick. They want to make a name for themselves, build a big city with this huge tower that will reach up to the gods. But God knows that this city will be a nightmare. So in His mercy, He scatters them. All of these stories underline the same basic idea. When humans seize autonomy from God and define good for themselves, it results in a world of tragedy and death. But there any hope for humanity? It is the beginning of God's mission to rescue and restore His world. Subscribe for more of this video.